This week, we're breaking down our reactions to PlayStation's PS5 Pro announcement. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who also has a cameo in Astrobot. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, congrats. How are you?
Do I?
Yeah, dude. Everybody's in there.
Well, they're not paying me royalties then.
I can't believe that that co-host of the Good Game, Bad Game podcast has been reduced to just a puppet for Astrobot. Congratulations, GGBG.
They have us like hosting an in-game podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just absolutely cooking. What's his name? Damon? Deacon?
Yeah. We're hosting a podcast in the game where we are dancing on the graves of Days Gone, like a Days Gone sequel and a Bloodborne remake / remaster.
Yeah.
Like we're just off to the side. We're just off to the side doing a little jig on the graves. One of those things they're definitely not doing. The other one is,
They just haven't. And people are frustrated about that.
People have been crying for a Bloodborne remaster since I guess the PS5 came out. So really not that long, but long.
Sure.
Because Bloodborne came out early PS4?
2017.
Yeah. So
about midway.
Yeah.
A little under midway.
Yeah, mid.
Yeah, that's what people say about that game. They say it's mid.
People say Bloodborne is peak mid.
Yeah.
So
They said it's not even hard. Try Demon Souls if you want to be a real gamer.
Yeah. Not the remake. Original Demon Souls.
Yeah.
If you want to be a real gamer.
Yeah.
And I do not. That is not a world I want to live in. How are you? It's been
7 hours and 15 days.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days.
That might actually be accurate.
What a weird way of telling time. Hours first? Are you European?
Sinead O'Connor.
So you're Irish.
Yes.
What games have you been playing?
We played Pico Park.
Wow.
It was on sale.
Nice.
And we played half of it in like an hour.
That tracks.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I assume Justine does, but I definitely enjoy it.
Okay, that's good. Getting excited for the second one?
Yeah. Yeah, that was on sale at the same time. For like $7. So we almost bought that too.
But you didn't want to get like too ahead of yourselves.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure.
That's fair. That's great. Okay, nice. I'm glad. That definitely. I think I said it when we saw something about Pico Park where I was like, this definitely feels like a Mike and Justine game. So glad I was.
It's definitely a Mike game.
Not a Justine game. I felt like this was a game where Justine would have to carry you from time to time.
She literally has to carry me in some of the levels because
Sure.
that's just how the game works.
Sure.
But
Right.
I think it's growing on her.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it? Did you only play Pico Park?
You know, I did not only play Pico Park.
Did you only play Pico Park in college football?
No, actually,
Oh,
yeah. How about this? Saving the week. I did start Star Wars Outlaws.
oh, nice.
Yeah. Uh, that game is like one of the few games that I've played on the Series X that I said, "Wow, this feels like a next gen game." Like, I don't know. I didn't touch any of the graphics settings, but like I feel like I'm watching a Star Wars movie for the most
Yeah,
part. They did a good job like blending in all of like the HUD. Uh, the frame rate has been pretty consistently 60 FPS or more. Like it hasn't stuttered at all.
that's good.
Um, it's a lot of fun. There are too many fucking controls,
Okay.
and I don't find the controls logical at all. Like the button to interact with stuff is R3,
Oh,
which like the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Because like, I don't know, it's all kind of definitive of motion. So like you walk up to a door and you don't have to take your thumb off the sticks and you just press R3 and open the door. It's kind of like real life.
sure, sure, yeah.
I mean, in real life, you're not taking your thumb off the analog stick to press X, so or square.
Yep.
Um, and there's just a lot like that I don't understand. I felt there was a lot going on in like the tutorial section, so it was a little hard to like pay attention to the story and then also figure out what the fuck I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's fun. It's a really good game. It's not hard really. Um, like I don't know. I'm trying to make this Splinter Cell for me, so I'm trying to be as stealthy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But like there really is no consequence for so far. Maybe it changes in the game, but I'm not that
Yeah.
far in. Like there's no consequences for getting caught, and the combat's really easy.
I wonder if that
So
does change because I feel like a lot of people were making it out to be that like the game is just too much stealth. And again, what I mean, I guess any amount of stealth might be too much stealth for somebody. So like
right,
that's a very subjective like claim, but like to me that just screamed like, "Oh my god, you must have to stealth a ton if it's quote unquote too much." But so yeah, I'm wondering if it does change or if like it becomes more consequential to like back that claim. Otherwise, I'm kind of like, "What?"
yeah,
And I guess like no matter what, you of all people are probably never going to say something has too much stealth, but um
no, sir. I mean, like I'd be more annoyed if I can just run through levels and shoot everything, and it's just easy, you know.
yeah. Well, that's great. I kind of completely like that left my brain that come out on your birthday.
It did. I bought it the day before my birthday
Uh,
and didn't get to
wow.
play it until last week.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you're playing it, and I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Yeah. I this may have been the death knell for Starfield though.
Because how are you gonna get back to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like this kind of gives me the cool spacey like aesthetic that I like,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't need an abundance of it.
Sure.
And it's third person, which I mean Starfield I guess technically can be too, but it just feels wrong in a
Yeah.
Bethesda game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just won 3 other natties.
There you go. There it is.
Yep.
It's good stuff. That is good stuff. Um, trying to think what I've really been playing.
Well, you were traveling, so you took your portal with you.
I did not. I did
Mm.
not. It was a pretty prime opportunity to try and test that out a bit more, and I did not do that. So played Near Replicant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Near Replicant version 1.1237895 ...
A lot of numbers.
Good game.
Yeah.
Very good game. Very good narrative. Potentially one of the best narratives in a
Push your
game I've
narratives on
played.
me.
Yeah. And it's one of those fun games where it has like multiple endings. So you like finish the game, you get your clear data, you like save, and then once you load that, you can like do other things that will like change the end of the game, I think. I haven't done that. I only just like got through my first run technically last night. Um but yeah, man, I love when games have like fun little post altering to the story and narrative and all that stuff, and like really make you like think and go, oh my god, that thing from 10 hours ago is totally different. I like stuff like that. So it's just, yeah, it's just kind of chill, kind of a chill gameplay, and then um fun story beats. So
There you go. You said that was Near Replicant,
Near Replicant, yeah.
and then they have Near Automatica or something like that too, right?
Automata, yeah.
Automata.
Which I'm trying to remember. I think Near Replicant is a remake of the PS3 Near game,
Mm.
and Automata is a prequel to it. I don't know. I forget how all that works. But so it's leaving PlayStation Plus, which is the main reason I like wanted to like get in on it, just to like at the very least play through it, just because I've heard like a lot of good things about the Nier series, and I wanted to see if it was like for me, and what better way to test those waters. And it definitely is. It's very fun. So would recommend. But also there's so many other games to play that I wouldn't tell anybody to rocket it up to the top. It's not that life changing, you know. Persona 5, absolutely. Move it to the top of your list. Nier, is good. Is good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good.
But yeah, I'm really, I know, like I kind of made a joke about it at the top. I have been super impressed with Astrobot. I'm really excited to play that game.
Yeah.
Like holy crap. Just all the really everything that everybody's been saying about it. Really what a roller coaster it's been for PlayStation. Will there be lessons learned? Who knows? But really cool to see a lot. I've seen, I don't know if a ton of people are doing this, but you know, I've seen a couple of people post about how like because of playing Astrobot, like they interacted with a Sly Cooper bot, and they were like, "Oh my God, Sly Cooper! I haven't thought about that game in forever." Search it on the PlayStation Store. Oh, you can buy the Sly Collection or play the Sly Collection through uh, PlayStation Plus or whatever, right? And they're like downloading those old games and like going back and revisiting these games that are like making
Games were good.
cameos. I saw somebody because of Astrobot, I saw somebody start a change.org position to get PlayStation to reconsider their thoughts on a sequel to Days Gone. So I mean, it's really just what a positive to the brand of PlayStation. Astrobot.
Did you see the name of the person who started that change.org?
I think it was at the Bantalorian.
Oh, that can't be right.
Nobody started it. I don't think anybody started it. I was just making
the
a
joke
joke.
was supposed to be at Jeff Ross.
Or at John Garvin.
Yeah.
Well done, Ben Studio. Way to protect your legacy. What a dork.
Yeah.
And then just one other quick segment before we get into the actual meat of this episode. I said jokingly that we were going to talk about Concord's player base every week, and then I said jokingly that I was no longer going to do it. And now is when I revealed that it was all a lie all along. I was always going to do it. And so I'm happy to report that Concord's player base, as of this morning when I checked, it's gone.
Oh my God, what a just absolute disaster.
Just
An
who
unshocking disaster.
who could have seen it coming? And to be clear, the reason that game failed is because PlayStation completely whiffed on what like the market desires.
Yeah.
And understanding like where the player base is and understanding like what like their players want. And like there's no clearer sign of like the ebbs and flows of gaming and everything like that than you release a game like that and then you release Astrobot. And it's like, come on, what's your bread and butter? Like, where are your best experiences held? So, anyway, it's a shame, really, because a lot of time and money was wasted on that, and I really feel for the people who worked on that game, because again, they were kind of just set up to fail in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think this is the new speedrun record for releasing a live service game and killing it. I think this is the fastest I've ever seen that happen. I can't remember how long it took for Anthem, but I'm pretty sure Concord takes the cake.
In terms of like how fast a player base died.
Yeah, or never existed.
Oh, yeah.
Because Anthem had the same issue. Anthem released.
I feel like Anthem had significantly more hype.
Oh yeah, definitely had way more hype. And flopped, I guess, in some ways harder then. But I feel like the servers and everything for it stayed up for at least a year, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that. I'm curious. Do you think Concord is actually like officially dead? Because they said that they're going offline, so I don't know how to read that situation. And then go ahead.
Say they played it like it was gonna make a comeback, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I read it too, but I'm also curious, like, is it one of those things where stay tuned and then gone forever? Like, let's just hope enough other stuff like takes the attention away from it.
I think you cut some losses, you know, and at the same time you help out with the driver deficit in Uber.
Fuck.
So you're having one issue, but you're solving another.
Beaches are more full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And wealthy developers get a year to find themselves.
Yes, all those developers who are bringing in the big bucks.
Yeah.
Who can definitely afford to just live in and of itself. Definitely then on top of that.
Some of the most expensive places in the world.
Right. These privileged motherfuckers.
Yeah, they just don't know how good they have it.
They don't know how good they have it.
Well, having them build a game and then shutting it down in 7 days will teach them.
You think you're living the good life? Don't be so sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy. And again, just a shame.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something else that's crazy from PlayStation. PlayStation yesterday formally announced the PS5 Pro, which we've known was going to be coming shortly, but we now officially have all of the details surrounding it, and including price and release date and all that good stuff. I messaged you yesterday and said that, let's see exactly what I said. Mark Cerny about to go full dork on my ears because if you remember back when they were first announcing the PS5, they did this whole little like event, and he was the spokesperson for the event, and it was definitely not an event for just like the casual like day-to-day gamer even. And so I was ready for that, and thankfully it wasn't quite on that level. But yeah, curious to hear what your thoughts are on the official PS5 Pro announcement.
Yeah, it's certainly a pro console.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess just my overall thoughts are it's not going to get new people to buy PS5s. I think this is really for the enthusiast who has a 100 or what are they making now, like a 212 hertz monitor that they're putting this up in their home office, whatever. I don't think this was necessarily designed for people to put under their TV.
Okay.
And I think the price point also kind of goes to that. I think the technology is really cool. Like it's definitely. I mean, this is almost like a 1 3/4 upgrades, I'd say. Like it's leaning a lot towards what I think the next gen consoles will look like, just without whatever killer feature that they decide to add. Like this generation, it was the faster memory. But yeah, I don't think it's something that everyday gamers are gonna need. I don't think they're gonna notice. Like, I don't know, unless you're one of the few people that has an 8K TV. I don't think you're gonna notice anything.
Yeah.
And $700 without a disk drive or a vertical stand. Hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like where I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And like it's funny because we just talked about the whole like spec nerds and like people who like get so wrapped up in like is it 60 FPS, is it 30 FPS, is it um can I see every single detail in the reflection of the water and like stuff like that? That like, yeah, it does help with like immersion and stuff like that, sure. But like, yeah, it's also getting to the point where like some people are so just unrealistic about like if it does not have every little thing, the game is therefore unplayable. So I think like this appeals to like maybe those people, but also those people probably just have a PC where they can have the like it absolutely specced out to everything they want. Which then on top of that, like the argument of like you can't do that for $700. So like the PS5 Pro for like anybody who's trying to like do that on like a bit of a budget, like you can tech a bit of a budget. Wow, you get what I'm saying? Like it's hard to get the bundle that is the PS5 Pro for $700 just by trying to build your own PC. But then you can also take into consideration that on PC, you don't need to pay for your ability to play online games outside of just your internet costs because you don't need an online subscription on top of that like you do with consoles, so on and so forth. You can fight tooth and nail about this back and forth all you want about like where you should really put your money. And at the end of the day, it's whatever people really want to do. I think for me though, like if you're upgrading from the PS4, if you still haven't upgraded from the PS4. I don't think the PS5 Pro is a bad move for anybody who's still like looking to like get into the new generation.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all the upgraded like specs and stuff, the tech, all that, right? Granted, the $700 price point is a bit of a lie because, to your point, like the vertical stand is $30 and the disk drive is $80. You may not need the disk drive, so like that comes down to personal preference there. But if you did want that to be able to play PS4 games that you have on your new PS5, then that's going to be again an additional $80. So all told, you're looking at $810 for the console, and just the console. But I do think like that is like a specific base that like it could be worth it to like get that. But if you already have a PS5, I don't really know why somebody would pay $700. These upgrades don't seem like that worth it, right?
Yeah, I mean it's strictly targeting enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, like I would say even if you have an Xbox Series X and you want to get into PlayStation, like I still don't think it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And like this unless you're making it your daily driver. And that's kind of my issue is because I had a moment during this. I was like, oh, like maybe I'll consider just getting this,
Mm-hmm.
the PS5 Pro. And I was like, well, we know it's gonna be like $700 or $800,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to play Spider-Man. So yeah, I want to go back to the conversation about like, does it make sense to buy an $800 console or buy or build or have somebody build for you a gaming PC? Like you said, it's going to be hard to match the specs
Yeah.
for the PS5 on a PC because they're doing it at scale. The other thing, and I don't know why people don't make this point more often, like Brad Sams had his input on this, and I like Brad Sams, but he was kind of giving the pitch of like, and I saw other Xbox people, Microsoft people doing this as well, like not people who work, just enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
Saying at $800 you're pretty close to a gaming PC, and you can play most PlayStation games and also Xbox games. And I mean, for me, like Spider-Man, you can't play that on PC. And you know how people are with like games not coming out to their platform on day one.
Mm-hmm.
The other, I think the big thing that people fail to bring up is maintaining a gaming PC and troubleshooting a gaming PC when you have issues is a huge pain in the ass
Mm-hmm.
that most people do not have the know-how to deal with. And when you pay for an $800 gaming console, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
You seldom have to do maintenance. Things rarely go wrong. And I think that's a something that's priced in that people don't consider.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge buying the special box, whether it's a PlayStation, whether it's a Xbox, whether it's a Nintendo, right? Like there's a ton of convenience in buying their specific console. But yeah, you don't need to like put up with a lot of stuff that, like you're saying, you have to put up with a PC.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna like sit here and really like debate with anybody like which one is, because it comes down to personal preference, right? Like we all get too worried about where people spend their money. I think it's worthwhile pushing like why you may want to at least take the time to like consider where you're putting your money and stuff, but acting like PCs are just a one-time $800 purchase, and they always are just getting upgraded with the new stuff for free. Like, like you're constantly having to pay for upgraded tech and stuff like that too. So it's it's just like a fool's errand to even try and debate the two, because they
totally different animal.
Yeah, they each have their benefits to them. So, yeah, I've been holding off. Shelby and I want to get another PlayStation so that we can play games together that are like, we're getting to the time where certain games are only releasing for next gen. So we want to be able to play games together. And so I've been like holding off on getting another PlayStation, a PS5, because I knew the Pro announcement was going to be coming. And I was like, don't want to pay $500 to get a slim PS5 or whatever, because that the price hasn't come down at all on these things. I want one with a disc drive, but I'm just gonna wait for the Pro, because the Pro is gonna come out and be what, like $600, and I'm gonna kick myself by not just getting the like upgrades and stuff like that. That's basically where I was like kind of netting out beforehand, and now I'm kicking myself because I'm like, God, I waited how long for this announcement, and now it's kind of pricing me out, because it would be a little silly to pay for these upgrades. But I had a really tough time going back and forth, and I kind of wanted to break down my thought process of it to see what you think, see if I'm thinking about this rationally and stuff like that. Because I think people are just stopping and only looking at the price point and aren't looking at the whole picture, which is fair. I mean, we all inform our decisions off of whatever we find to be most important to us about any sort of situation. And obviously with a console and with gaming, price is always going to be a major factor. But to go into it, like, it's got the PS5 Pro is going to have a larger GPU. I think it's like 67%. 67% more compute units. The memory is going to be 28% faster, which the PS5 is already. This generation is already extremely fast. And then also like ray tracing is going to make. Sorry, go ahead.
Here's the hard thing about comparing like the memory speeds. Like they're 25% faster, PS5 Pro to PS5. And that's a little misleading because it needs to be, because it has more compute units.
Yeah.
And you need more memory for more compute units. It's kind of a linear thing. So I wouldn't sell yourself on that.
Sure. That's a fair call out.
Anyway, sorry. No, keep going. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. But they're adding ray tracing, and then effectively they're doing the whole like NVIDIA like upresing of games. They have their own AI powered PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PISR for short. Which is really cool tech.
That's got to go well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xbox has been doing it for an entire generation.
Exactly. Like this is like a given at this point, right? Like we should just have these things. And this is where I sit and go, like, if you're going from PS4 to the PS5 Pro, that's a nice jump. I think that's a really that is a good console to console like improvements and stuff like that. But like when you go from PS4,
back in the day, we used to just call that a generational jump.
I know. Like you sit here and go PS4 to PS5, it feels like some of it's pretty marginal, and then PS5 to PS5 Pro, also you can sit here and be like, it's pretty marginal. But if you actually like take out the PS5 from in between there, it's like you said, it's just a by the books, maybe generational jump. So you get those. You get those improvements to that are in the PS5 Pro versus just the base PS5. Is that worth $200? I don't know. Whatever. You can debate that, right? But one thing is that the PS5 Pro also will have a 2 terabyte solid state drive from the jump, which I don't even know if the new like PS5 Slim has 1 terabyte yet, or if it's still that like 770 gigs or whatever
Yeah.
pre software and stuff like that. So, getting a full terabyte at the very least of additional storage, like how much is that worth? So on and so forth.
Yeah.
You there's other things to like take into consideration outside of just the fact that like it's just $200 just to be $200 because all things are not equal across the board.
Yeah. It's when you put it, if you, I know we said we don't really want to compare, but the Xbox mid-gen upgrade, if that's what it's going to be, um, basically is just the old console with a 2 terabyte drive, and it's $100 more.
Right.
So I mean, do I think the PS5 Pro is a better value upgrade than just these? I don't even know what to call the Xbox, the new Xbox consoles that came out, because they're not. I mean, they're the same console. They just have more storage.
Yeah.
It's not really a huge upgrade. It's not something you couldn't do with expandable storage. But to put it into perspective, like $100 to get the other features other than the 2 terabyte solid state is not bad.
Right.
If we want to think about economics and previous generations, it should really be a $300 bump because the PS5 should be $100 cheaper than it was at launch, but it's not.
Right. The other thing to factor in, though, is, of course, the vertical stand and the disk drive. So the $500 PS5 console is with a disk drive. $450 is for the new Slim digital. So really, you should be comparing the 450 to the 700 if you want to compare prices. And then even still, like you have to factor in that the $450 one, I think comes with a vertical stand. That I could be wrong about, but regardless, shout out to Sony being Apple. So I'm thinking about this from the viewpoint of like I technically want to get another one. So in my mind, if you're comparing, not taking into consideration, if you're just comparing the $700, you're not talking about the plus having to get the disk drive and plus having to get the vertical stand. I'm just talking about the base $700 to get the console. I think that the $700 PS5 Pro is the better choice for somebody who's looking to get a PlayStation versus just getting the standard PS5 at $500.
Yeah, if it's going to be your daily driver, if you're going to do more than play NBA on it.
Right. Now, I feel like it kind of nets out once you have to take into consideration that technically to be the same as that $500 console, you actually need to pay an additional $100, $110 for the disk drive and the vertical stand. So an $810 PS5 Pro versus the $500 buying a new PS5 standard, I feel like kind of nets out. And then at that point, I'm probably just going to go with the cheaper option. Thoughts? Would you agree with that thought process?
I do, unless you have some insane gaming monitor or an 8K TV. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So then
I don't think you're going to notice a whole lot otherwise.
Right. So then on top of that, and again, this is just I'm talking about just for my own personal thoughts and my own wallet and all that stuff. I sent to you Wario64 posted about how there are listings for refurbished PlayStation 5s on Sony Direct or PlayStation Direct, whatever it is. They're not yet available. They say coming soon. For the disk drive PS5 for $400.
And it seems like it's and this might be splitting hairs, but um it's like the original PS5, right? Not the
I
Slim.
think so. I think so. That's what it looks like to me, at least. But not that that matters a ton, because I still have my base PS5,
Yeah.
which is the digital only, and it runs perfectly fine. There's again, truly, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm looking to get a second PlayStation simply so Shelby and I can like play more games together and stuff
Yeah.
like that, I'm not buying a PS5 Pro. I'm totally fine with my PS5. There's no reason for. I can't, again, like you said, unless you're an enthusiast, I can't imagine why somebody who already has one would be getting a Pro. But so they have these certified refurbished PlayStation 5 consoles for $400. Again, with the disc drive, and again, going like back and forth, it's like the $400 versus for a refurbished, and I'm assuming that would come with some sort of warranty since it's like through PlayStation directly, but maybe not. But
I would imagine.
nonetheless, refurbished at the very least, so you have at least like high faith outside of like just buying a pre-owned PS5. For $400, I'm like, okay, again, that versus just the $700 PS5 Pro, just buying the console itself. I'm sitting there going like, this is probably net even, and you probably edge to the cheaper one at that point, in terms of like the value. But then when you consider that like it's going to be double the price to get the Pro plus the disc drive plus the stand and everything, kind of a no-brainer at that point. Anyway, just a fun little exercise in thinking about the cost of things and like where people land on, the value of like that additional storage and the various upgrades. I look forward to experiencing these on the PS6.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you think about it, we're probably like what, 2 years out from the first announcements for PS6?
Maybe 3 years, depending.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to base it off history, because if this generation's proven anything, it's that console generations are never going to be the same.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think they're going to be at the deficit of the consumer. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would imagine that I imagine there's still going to be a significant jump between the PS5 Pro and the PS6. I say that a little hesitantly because like we talk about the Xbox One X and the Series X, and like at launch, graphics wise, they were basically the same. It was just
Yeah.
load times that were better. I've played a recent game on the Xbox One, and it was terrible, but that was also because I think it technically wasn't even the same game. I think they made like a dumbed down version just for old gens. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works, because in a lot of ways, I feel like PlayStation's kind of playing their hand a little too aggressively here with, pushing this updated console for $700. What does that tell you about a launch PlayStation 6? Like how much is that going to cost?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's already something to take into consideration, right? Because like you're just thinking about how like the cost of tech and stuff like typically will balloon and stuff, especially when you're like early to it. You think about storage, right? Buying upgraded storage, buying a 2 terabyte SSD with heatsink for my PlayStation 5, closer to launch, probably cost me, double might be a bit extreme, but potentially double what it costs now already, right? Like you just think about how that stuff will like drop. So if it's all the newest tech and stuff, it's going to obviously be a ballooned price for those things. And normally they sell consoles for a loss and stuff. So, but even still,
Yeah.
you're probably looking at like pretty tough pill to swallow for most people when it comes to the price of like this next gen console. If the Pro mid gen refresh uh for current gen is already $700.
Yeah, it's funny, we could probably do a whole episode on it, but the geopolitics of consumer electronics is getting a little, I mean, it's been and has been for a decade now, but I mean, it's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about where all the components for a PS5 are coming from. China and Taiwan. Hey, guess who's at war? China and Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the United States, under the current administration, has been putting a lot of funding into the CHIPS Act, trying to get, namely, memory chips produced directly in the United States. Some ARM-based processors as well. So, the next gen is really kind of in like a superposition right now.
Mm-hmm.
They could either be made how they've always been made, with all Chinese components, which I think are going to continue to balloon,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know. And I still think we're pretty far out from this, but I think eventually we're going to be seeing um, consoles manufactured directly in the country they need to ship from. I don't know if that'll be out of necessity to keep things at a reasonable price, or if that will cut the price, but um, all things remaining the same, like the PS6 might be touching $1,000.
Yeah. It's just crazy to think about too, because like what reason, you can even say this from the PS4 to the PS5, what reason did people really have to upgrade? There were some titles, sure, but for the most part, you could have stayed on the PS4 up until this point easily and been happy because you still had plenty of games releasing. And again, like the upgrades, faster load times, you do kind of forget about how nice those are. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, beyond that, and beyond the fact that your PS4 in the dead of summer is somehow still heating and fighting your AC, is still heating your place. So you have that, and a jet engine
Yeah.
constantly going through your living room. But
30,000
regardless,
BTU PS4. Do you think they should add that to the spec sheet?
yeah, they should. um, what? Yeah, I just sit here going, what reason does somebody have? What reason are you giving people to upgrade from the PS5 to whatever the next console is, whenever it's coming and stuff like that? Not to get into the whole like uh Xbox has no games, PlayStation has no games, but in in all seriousness, like it does feel like PlayStation is really missing out on those like peak experiences that really like push you to the console, that it felt like the PS4 had, that it felt like even the PS3 had, right? Like those experiences that you could only get on that console. So it feels very bold to release a console at $700 again, like a mid-gen refresh at $700 or upgrade.
Sure.
And already it's like, is there enough in just the hardware and everything that says this is worth it? And then beyond that, it's like, what are the additional uh benefits to moving forward? um It'll be interesting to see how they position for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next big step is some sort of, and they've discussed this. I think this is pretty much the plan: is the hybrid, like local cloud, local slash cloud. I'm not saying that people have local clouds, um, consoles, and having experiences that are partially generated on your home console and partially generated somewhere in the cloud. Um, But yeah, I don't know. To me, this kind of feels like PlayStation is saying, "Hey, if we release a next gen console in 2 to 3 years, it's going to be another marginal upgrade."
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're biding time. They're just saying, "Hey, we know this console is going to be the most recent PlayStation console for another 5 years and not 2 years."
Yeah.
And frankly, I think that's fine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you don't release the next generation until, let's say, 2030, right, for a nice round number,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably perfect.
Right.
Like that's probably gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and by building it this way, you're setting up the PS5. Like, yeah, right now there's a very small market of people who have a reasonable monitor or TV for it, but I think TV tech and monitor tech is growing at a faster rate than console tech, so
Yeah.
they're just building for the future.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to touch on with the PS5 Pro is that the positioning and timing of all of this is potentially going to be very funny because what's something that we've been talking about now for what feels like probably 2 years, uh, that we should hopefully finally be getting clear cut answers on shortly.
PlayStation Vita.
No, but God, I wish. Um, the Switch 2.
Yeah.
I mean, Nintendo still hasn't, given us concrete details yet. By all, I would say expectations at this point now. Again, even though we've been saying it for the past however long, if it mimics the Switch was formally announced in October and then released in March. So we could be, I mean, we're getting close to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
This month or next, we could very well see what the next console from Nintendo is. And yeah, the timing of the PS5 Pro announcement could be really funny because the Switch, whatever it is, I really can't imagine it being more than what, $400.
Oh yeah.
The Switch released at 300, right? So even with uh the upgrades and stuff like that, like I really can't see a new Switch console pushing past $400. So you're going to be looking at the option of uh $800 for a console that, again, if you already have a PlayStation 5, you definitely don't need. It's definitely personal preference there. Or if you're trying to figure out how to get onto the next gen, uh, you're going to be splitting hairs over the additional potentially $400 for PlayStation and their lineup, or do you just pay a flat 400 and get Mario and Zelda and
Right.
all that? So definitely definitely interesting timing, and yeah, kind of sets up Nintendo for a nice layup, really.
And I think that solidifies your position because think about it. You could get a PS5 Pro and, you know, I'm not saying you're not going to see differences. It's just whether or not it's going to be of value to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could get your refurbished PS5,
Mm-hmm.
basically get the Switch 2 for free.
There you go. That's girl math.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
GGBG math.
Yeah, GGBG math. Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
That'll be, and that'll, again, that's the good and the bad of the positioning of Sony here with their announcement, is that it's like we always talk about when PlayStation or Xbox holds an event, right? whoever holds it first, okay, you can set the tone, but like, is the value in being able to go second? Or is the value better to go first? Well, okay, you're the first one to bring this announcement, and you're already getting some backlash with a bit of a whiff by releasing the console for $700. And again, that's just like setting up Nintendo. And now all the comparisons, once Nintendo announces the Switch 2, are going to be the Switch 2 versus the PS5. And it doesn't, the PS5 Pro. And it doesn't matter that the PS5 Pro is going to, have better specs and stuff like that. Because again, we know that the Switch successor is going to be about as powerful as like a PS4, right? That's like the
Yeah, it's
expectation.
yeah.
It's not going to matter because at the end of the day, like one of the most glaring things that people are going to look at, and rightfully so, is going to be cost.
Yeah. Well, I completely forgot that Xbox is set to announce some hardware, I think in December.
Yeah. Do you think that's also going to be an actual like meaningful like console like mid-gen upgrade?
I imagine it'll be the same exact thing that Sony just announced. But they have an opportunity to come in $100 cheaper.
Yep.
No vertical stand,
Yep.
no removable disk drive.
Yep. Or just bundle that all together. Like that, I think that's what irks me the most about the PS5 Pro is like if you bundle all those things together for $700, all right.
Yeah, you got a case.
If you do the digital one is 650 and the one that comes bundled with a disk drive and vertical stand is 750 and you effectively save $10 by bundling it all together. All right, maybe. Maybe I can get behind that thought and that move. I think selling the stand. I guess like are there like feet or something on the PlayStation that like you don't need a stand? I guess you can just I guess you don't even need the
I
stand as it
I mean, you
currently
can
is.
stand it vertically, but I wouldn't consider it like
I don't love that.
balanced or
Yeah,
structurally sound.
just a little fucked. But
I mean, the good news is if it falls over, the only damage that will likely happen will just be cosmetic,
yeah.
unless you put a disk drive on it. But seeing as it doesn't come with one,
uh, yeah. Yeah, this really feels like PlayStation's like setting themselves up to get kind of dunked all over. Um,
have
but
you
we'll
seen
see.
like any? I haven't seen a ton of like unbiased feedback, if that still exists. Um, what's the sentiment here? Are people excited about it or
Um, I mean, I don't think so. I think general feedback from what I'm seeing is that most people are thinking that this like isn't worth it
yeah?
at the end of the day. Like, but again, I'm trying to think about it from the standpoint of like you don't already have a PS5 because a lot of people who are going to talk about this already have one. So if you're saying it is worth it while already having one, maybe that's like worth like your opinions like worth hearing out, but also maybe you're just a Sony dick rider at that point. So like you're gonna just say anything from Sony's good. Um, if you already have a PS5 and say it's not worth it, like that's a very valid opinion because you already have a PS5. But
Mm.
I'm trying to think about it from the standpoint of like somebody who doesn't have one, and it's like, okay, I think the value is definitely there, but the is it that much better than saving 200 potentially $300 by just getting a base one? Like probably probably not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for most people, it's not.
But I think like people just want to immediately jump on the just buy a PC at this point, and just like it's not. It's not as easy or one to one as people always try to make it seem,
Yeah,
which I know
it's
we've talked about. But
yeah.
so I've seen a lot of people just say at this point, just buy that. Somebody else, I think, pointed out. I think Jason Schreier did a tweet where he said you could buy like one PS5 Pro, you could buy so many copies of his book, you could buy 700 Arizona iced teas, and you could buy. He said something else, and then Tom Henderson was like, or in the aggregate, you can buy one regular PS5, one Switch or Switch Lite, one copy of Jason Schreier's book, one Arizona iced tea, and then like it was like what percent of a GeForce RTX 4090, whatever they're on now, with uh and $700 buys you like 67% of one of those or something like that. And Tom Henderson was like, or 0.01% then left over to put towards a new 4080,
Yeah.
4090, whatever. So that was really funny to see.
So it seems like people don't think it's worth it.
I would say, yeah, that's the general consensus, is that like at that price point, it's just like ridiculous. But I've seen some like people have the nuance of like, okay, but again, you do have more storage, which you have to consider the cost of that, right? Like the
But yeah, I mean, buying a 1 terabyte expansion card for the Xbox is like $150.
yeah,
I mean, that is the biggest ripoff in gaming right now.
yep. So there's more layers to peel back outside of just the price again. But at the end of the day, that is going to be probably the most important thing that somebody's going to inform their decision on. And 700 plus, again, the fact that you have to go out and buy the standalone disk drive and the stand, that's just your $800 is just asking too much of people at this point. We'll see how it ends up selling though, because you know that plenty of people are still going to buy it, because plenty of people are going to care about these things, or people have the money to do it. And if that's what they want to do at the end of the day with their money, I mean, who's to stop them? I just hope it doesn't embolden Sony to keep doing things like that. So yeah, it's why I'm saying like I feel like they're just like kind of tipping their hand a bit too aggressively here, with like they could just kind of get away with doing whatever the hell they want. And so I hope there's, enough pushback, or enough data to not support them continuing these rather anti-player moves. Mainly talking about the disk drive and the stand and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think what you do, and I doubt this will happen, but I think this would help the sentiment, as feeble as this sounds, but you start a luxury brand. It doesn't have PlayStation anywhere in the name. Think about like cars, okay? A Toyota and a Lexus, same exact thing, same exact car, but the Lexus, you're going to get the leather seats, the nice tint,
Mm-hmm.
better sound system, things like that. But you're not, and Toyota can sell that, but you're not alienating, the people who just want a classic Toyota. And so you stop drawing these comparisons that like Sony expects everyday people to consider the PS5 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just what happens with gaming for
Yep.
some reason. But if they start a completely new brand run by Sony, but it's not called PlayStation, but it is a PlayStation, then people know. I think, as stupid as that sounds, that changes the sentiment a little.
I can't imagine that happening though.
No, I doubt it will. I just think it would help.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's not a terrible idea.
It's worked for the car industry for 100 years.
That would be ridiculous if they did what did Sony do? They did the all gold plated PS5,
Yeah.
right? Or was that the PS4? It was like
It was the PS4.
$4,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just start doing that shit. There are people who will do that, and you can catch your whales like that, and then leave us normies to the actual like. I just want to play. I just want to play Spider-Man, like you said.
Yeah. That's literally the conundrum.
All right. I think that does it for this episode. If you have anything else on PS5 Pro?
Nope.
All right. Well, that'll do it. And this is the season 4 finale for GGBG. So next week, season 5, expect a fun little surprise at the top of that episode. That does it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, if you could leave us a rating or review wherever you do listen to the podcast, it'd be greatly appreciated. You can go over to YouTube where we post the podcast, and you can leave us a comment on that video letting us know your thoughts on the PS5 Pro. Is it a buy? Is it not? What's the rationale behind it? And yeah, most importantly, if you can share the podcast with a friend, that would also be greatly appreciated. And we will talk to you next week.